How you going? My name's Hayden. This is my 1977 FJ45 on an 80 series chassis. Most people know it as NEDK these days. So originally I bought the bar off Eureka in Dandenong. We sort of modified it and chopped and changed it and put some new bar work on it. I was losing quite a bit of wheel arch under here, so we shortened the bar, made it a bit more so we can hit some steeper rocks, have a bit more fun. We obviously it's a fair bit wider now with the 80 series chassis under it, so the flares are actually two original flares that we had to chop in half. Obsession did most of that for us. I was lucky enough to buy an 80 series that used to be in comps and had a fair bit of good third production gear under it. So I bought the 80 series, and Obsession spent about 8 months chopping and changing it and making the body fit onto an 80 series chassis. Originally it was a 45 series chassis, but I did an overspring and a few other things that weren't quite fully engineered, so the police got a little bit too much attention. So we went this route, so it's fully engineered, fully roadworthy. Definitely get me out of some trouble. So we got a 9,000 pound worn winch on the front. I got the remote in the cabin. Dyna rope from Trail Gear. It was a bit of an upgrade. So we're running Micky T's. They're 36 by 15.5, so they're pretty wide tyre. We actually ordered them in from America because your standard tyres, just sort of 35s by 12.5, just didn't look right sitting underneath it because it's so much wider now. And they definitely, I don't seem to sit as low in some of the ruts that some of the boys do, so it seems to work fairly well under the car. So we've got full coils, disc brakes, so it's got all sort of the old school look with a bit more of the modern comfort underneath it. Running all third production gear, old school gear, but it's pretty tough. So running Cromolly axils and CVs from Trail Gear, as well as crawler gears that we got sent over from America. Definitely make a huge difference when we go crawling. I try and stay out of the water these days. I've drowned it a couple of times, and it gets a bit expensive changing motors out when you get the bonnet underwater. So I try and stay out of the bog holes these days. It gets a bit expensive. So we're running a 6 litre LS2 that we managed to find. A young bloke obviously got hit up the arse, so it was a write-off. So we managed to get that motor fairly cheap. It sits in there quite nicely. Running the twin snorkels, gives it plenty of air. Pretty much a standard motor. It does the job. It's great. So I'd love to throw a turbo on it, but it's we'll see how we go one day. So pretty much all the custom bar work we've had to, unfortunately, being 80 series with a 45 series chassis, nothing's you can't just go and buy gear from the shop. It's all had to be made up. Obsession 4x4 have helped me quite a bit with all that sort of stuff, and they've definitely done an amazing job. I wouldn't call myself a welder, so I take that to those boys for that sort of stuff. So all custom interior. Most of the driver's side these days is all fiberglass. The door and the roof. Unfortunately, after I rolled it the first and second time, I had to get some new panels, so I went for the fiberglass. So all sort of, we redid all the interior a couple of years ago for one of the shows I did at Denny Ute Muster, just before we managed to win that at Denny Ute Muster a couple of years ago. Custom drift gauges, they look pretty good, do the job. I've got a scan gauge in there as well, just to make sure that I know what the temperature's doing straight from the motor. Yeah, so the scoop I actually like. I love the look. I was actually, when it was a 5 litre, I was having quite a lot of dramas with it overheating. So we started looking at it, all sorts of options to try and cool it down. But I love the 79 series, obviously, with the scoop on the bonnet on the 79. So there was a few fiberglass options that I saw a few 45s running, but I actually pulled this one off a Subaru, and we made it fit. I liked that look a little bit better. Looks a bit cleaner rather than the GT style fiberglass bonnets that a few guys are running. So the rear tray's got a bit of a hidden compartment in the back where I keep all the recovery gear, keeps it nice and dry, as well as we've moved the batteries and air compressor to up behind the tyre, just so, like I say, the first couple of times I drowned it. I had them in the toolboxes on either side of the ute, but the water tends to be deeper than those, so we've got them up nice and high, get them out of the water, so when I do a few crossings and play in the mud, that nothing gets wet and damaged. So I bought it about 10 years ago. It was running 33s, pretty standard, stock standard. I'd already had a 5 litre in there, and the tray had been done. So we spent a bit of time. I actually gave it an over spring, so we extended the steering, extended pretty much everything to make the over spring work. But I never really spent the time and money to get it all engineered properly. So hence why we ended up going with the 80 series chassis, because to get it all engineered so that I didn't have any problems with Vic roads and so forth. So like I say, I was lucky enough to buy the 80 series chassis. It already had a 5.5 inch lift under it. At that time, not many guys had done an 80 series chassis underneath the 45 when we did it a few years back. So it's definitely becoming a more popular option these days. A lot of guys are trying to put the 80 series chassis under them and doing a great job of it. So it's definitely a pretty good combo. So we used to head out to Wombat State Forest quite a bit when it was a 45 series chassis. Found a few pretty deep holes in there to drown a couple of motors and have a bit of fun. These days we head up to the high country every year for ochre. Definitely have a good time up there, and I think this year we had about close on 100 45 series cruisers up there, so that's always a good weekend and a heap of good blokes, and get up to a bit of mischief and have a few drinks and you know, great atmosphere, good group of guys, all with the same sort of cars, so it's a good weekend away. At the end of the day, definitely a big shout out to Obsession 4x4. They pretty much did that chassis swap for me, and the motor upgrades and so forth. So they definitely take good care of me. All accessories and so forth these days. I get a lot of gear from Trek Hardware in Epping, so they take pretty good care of me. Korr lighting, obviously these lights. I mean, they're come night time, these things definitely do the job. All LED, so they're a good bit of kit. A few of the boys have commented when I come up the hill at night time that they'd blind a few of the boys, so it's good gear.